How's it going, everybody? I'm Steven from M Retro, and here with me I have Brian, also known as Dr. Modalot, and we are doing this very first episode of a podcast I'm starting. I think for a name I'll call it the Retrocast, but I'm still thinking about that. But say hi, Brian.
Hey guys, how's it going? This is Dr. Modalot.
All right. So, speaking of subjects, what was the first subject you wanted to talk about?
Well, I thought it'd be a good idea for us to talk about what got us started on YouTube. I mean, a lot of different channel owners have different histories and backgrounds with YouTube. Some of them are freshly new, and some of them might have tried other things before, so I was pretty interested in what you had to say about your channel.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I'll actually, I could introduce my channel, the background at least.
Sure.
My background with YouTube is super varied, and it goes back a long ways. It goes back all the way to, I think 2013 is when I really wanted to actually, make videos. And from, 2013 to I would say, the tail end, or the middle of 2016, I just wasn't able to produce steady content. I had a channel, also known as Shredded Bullet, and I would make gaming videos, but I would get into the groove of making videos, and I would lose interest, and I would stop making videos. So with the intent, towards the end of 2016, I had the intent of actually starting fresh with a new channel, and trying to at least produce regular content. And that's been going pretty well for me so far. I've amassed currently 56 subscribers. But, it's not always about your subscriber count. It's also about the quality of your content. And now I'm starting to feel more confident in the quality of my content. So I'm getting a production schedule going, and I'm getting this YouTube thing down.
All right, sounds great, man.
How about your channel? What's your background?
Well, this is actually my third attempt at doing a YouTube channel sort of thing. My very first one was way back when I was in high school. I had a friend of mine who I would always go over to his house, and I brought my laptop over, and we had this random idea that we were going to do a radio show kind of thing, kind of like a podcast, but before podcasts were really a thing. And I'm not gonna tell what the name of it is because it's still on YouTube and it's super stupid, but we did one episode of it and we felt like that was enough, but for some reason we didn't delete it from YouTube, so if you look around hard enough you could still find it.
Yeah, I have a thing like that too, and it was pretty embarrassing, and it's still up.
Yeah,
I used to do sketch comedy videos with a friend.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Well, hey, we all start somewhere, and after that, my second channel, I actually started with one of my pen pals from Estonia, and it's another one of those channels that I'm embarrassed about, and that we're not gonna say the name of, because I don't want people to go looking for it. But it was, we were watching on YouTube, old cartoon episodes. We'd watch one episode from, different cartoons from the 90s and earlier, and we would judge them based on how, silly or ridiculous they were, how unrealistic, or how much they just didn't make sense. And it was just such a stupid show. We went on for about a year, and we made $2, and I was like, okay, that's enough.
It's there's no payoff there at that point.
Exactly. We had, no fan base, and everyone that ever commented was like, what's this? What are you guys even doing?
Yeah, exactly. It's that's funny.
But, yeah. But, I mean, you and me are in this point now where we have new channels, and we're slowly building a following. I'm a little over 2,000 subscribers at this point, and I'm trying to work my way up a bit more, hopefully. That'd be nice.
Yeah, you're doing really good with your channel, and you're at a really good point, because right now, at least my goal is I want to at least hit that 1K mark, just to get I guess a decent following. That's just basically my overall goal, because I feel like I would be even content with about that much. I'm not, I don't really see myself ever blowing up to 1 million or 100,000 or something, but just decent success.
Oh yeah, I get what you mean. I mean, once you hit the 1,000 mark, I feel like that's when you officially have your audience. That's when you have your average set of people that you need to make videos for. The people that well, basically what types of videos you should be making. Those are the people that are interested, and that's where your audience really starts.
That's really true, because at the point, like, once you hit 1,000, YouTube will start to, like, actually promote your content, and your channel will, continue to grow even when you're away for a little bit. At least at the stage I'm in, like, if I were to just stop making content for a week, I would lose any momentum I had. Like, it's, unless I hit the SEO lottery, and get a video that gets promoted pretty fast. But it's
Right.
like, it's all about, like, working your way to the 1,000 mark. I feel like that's the hardest point, because you have to keep pushing, like, this metaphorical ball uphill, and you can't stop.
Oh yeah, I totally get what you mean. I feel like I'm at the point on my channel right now where the difficult part is I'm able to sustain my audience, but I'm having trouble building it. I mean, I've gotten an idea of what my audience likes, but what my channel is based on isn't the same idea of what my audience maybe really likes.
Oh.
Like, I enjoy doing my how to mod videos a lot, and some of my viewers enjoy it too, but a lot more people like it when I actually have topics that I talk about.
Yeah, it's all about, like, I guess, narrowing in on, like, what your audience likes the most, because sometimes you'll have, like, two different series, and, like, a subscriber might be subscribed for only one type of video you make. So it's all about, like, even though you might have, like, a certain amount of subscribers, that subscriber base may be, even divided into multiple audiences that you have from different things you've done.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Alright, let's see. Well, was there any topics that you had in mind at all?
Oh yeah, I actually wanted to hit up the point of, I want to talk about Nintendo for a little bit. This is something I found interesting. I know it's a little late to the party of the whole, the NES Classic has been discontinued, and I know at this point for some people it may be beating a dead horse. But I don't only want to talk about the NES Classic, I also want to talk about, where Nintendo is going from this point on into the future. Because even though, it may seem like a product that isn't super vital to Nintendo's success, what Nintendo did with canceling that also, it's kind of like, it's changed, it's putting Nintendo on a different path that they could have been on, like, a different path, and they're switching courses now, because they could have done so much more, at least with the NES Classic and, future hardware. But like, with Nintendo canceling the NES Classic, that's just a lot of lost revenue, in my opinion. I think it's crazy that they would have done something like that, because it was selling out immensely,
Oh yeah. I had a short time when I was actually trying to get my hands on it, and there's just the pure frustration of trying to do that made me realize that I didn't really want one in the first place, which is what ended up me putting up my NES Classic Edition video. And that video is pretty divided in what people think, because, you have a lot of people who are fans of Nintendo, so a lot of fans of Nintendo are the ones who watch those kinds of videos. And I totally get where people are coming from. A lot of them say that, it's a classic system, it's got the old games on it, and it is really unfortunate that Nintendo decided to stop producing it. I just don't really understand why they didn't decide to plan that for the long run. They said that one of the main reasons why that they canceled it was because they had no intention of making it for a long time past the holiday season. It was supposed to be like a holiday season made, done kind of deal, and they put it out a little bit longer after that because people were so interested, and then they just stopped, and now they're apparently going to be, well, I think it's safe to assume at this point they're making an SNES Classic Edition, but that's just my thought, and I don't know how I feel about it. I feel like it'd be much better if they made one system, just one retro system, where you could have access to older titles and to be able to download them off like the eShop. I think that'd be a really cool option from them. But I feel like they're taking the same effect that they did with the 3DS and 2DS, where they're making a bazillion different versions to apply to different people who are interested. Like, hit different audiences and different groups of people.
Yeah.
I don't think it makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like because Nintendo had said that it was a one-off product. It was only intended for the holiday season, like you said, and from the reception they got, I don't know why they didn't, maybe change course and maybe continue production. Because it's just, there was such demand for them and scalpers got a hold of them. I don't really understand that point. And then also with the SNES Classic, that doesn't make much sense to me personally, just because they discontinued the NES Classic and then now they're moving on to another console. And it's like, well, what's going to happen with that? Is that also going to be a super hard to find thing and something people shouldn't bother? So the whole like one system thing you brought up was actually pretty interesting. It kind of reminds me of like a RetroPie.
Oh yeah, totally.
And I feel like that would actually be a really good option. But at that point, if you have a separate system for it, wouldn't that just be, wouldn't they, if they were going that route, wouldn't they just, focus on Virtual Console at that point?
That would be a good point too. I feel like a lot of it would be if they were to release a retro system like this. As you can see what they did with the NES Classic Edition, that had a huge pull in their audience, or a huge pool of buyers, people who were interested. Like you said, there were a lot of scalpers who bought tons and tons of these things just because the demand for them was so crazy.
Yeah.
That I feel like a lot of the pull there was that it was a retro system. I mean, a lot of those games that you got on there, you could probably find on the Virtual Console. I mean, I know at least the Mario games, of course, and Balloon Fight. But I feel like having a dedicated console for that, having its own console environment for retro systems would be pretty amazing, because that way people wouldn't have to dish out their money on, say, a Nintendo Switch and pay $300 or more depending whether or not they buy from a third party.
Exactly.
Just to play Virtual Console games.
Yeah, because, the NES Classic, I would say it's aimed at a different audience. It's not aimed at the gaming audience. It's aimed at the nostalgia audience. So, having one console, if you were to have one console that you could put all these classic games on, that's cheaper than a Switch, that would do really well commercially, because this is a different audience Nintendo's dealing with.
Yeah, and they're making it more difficult, because they like you said, they make the system, it goes for a few months, they cancel it, and then they make the next level of system. Well, why not make one system that has all of the systems on it, all the retro systems, and that way you can have a sustaining audience of people that want to buy this, and you can keep pushing out eShop items rather than making a system that only has a set number of games on it.
Yeah, and you also, if they did that, they wouldn't lose consumer trust, because it's kind of like, what's next at this point? Is it for sure that they're going to keep supporting this system, or is it for sure that when this is released, I'm actually going to be able to find one if I wait?
Oh yeah, for sure. And one of the things I feel like the NES Classic got hit with is the same thing that happened with Amiibos. So back when Amiibos,
yeah.
Yeah, back when they came out for Super Smash Bros., I was super into them. I thought they were really cool. My first one was actually a Pikachu that I bought with my system, or with the game, I mean. And I saw how quickly they were going out, and I actually tried to be one of those. I wasn't a complete scalper, but I bought multiple Amiibos of the same kind when I would see them available. Like, my mom actually got into it too. She bought like 5 Samuses and 4 Bowsers in one sitting. And then they all just became available again, and now we just have like a whole pile of Amiibos of the same copies, and they're just worthless aside from base price.
You should do something with a video on those. Like, that would be actually make for an interesting video, talking about the whole Amiibo issue.
Yeah, it would. I'm just worried that Nintendo's going to start going that route more often. I feel like maybe they're doing too many projects. They have, oh my gosh, they have 6 versions of the 3DS now, which is just ridiculous.
That blows my mind. Just
yeah, I know.
It's just like, is that a plus? When you're at that many revisions, is that a point? Like, should you continue to support this console at this point?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, honestly, I did a little bit of research. I think the 3DS is at a point now where it's the system that's had the most revisions out of any game console in history. The second one was the PSP. It's had 5 different versions, but now the 3DS has had 6. And where do they stop? I
know that's crazy. They should be, like, I guess, allocating their resources differently and putting them on different projects, because, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, I understand why they did, like, the new the new 3DS because it fixed the 3D tracking support, and problems that the old 3DS had. But the 2DS XL I find is excessive. I don't really see a purpose to that, honestly.
Yeah, I felt like with the original 2DS, there was clearly a difference between it and getting an actual new 3DS instead, because, they looked a lot different from each other, the functionality was a lot different, and sure, giving the 2DS XL a few upgrades, I guess is kind of cool, but at the same time, now the only difference between that system and a new 3DS is literally the difference between 2D and 3D. I mean, they look like almost exactly the same system now.
At that point, they're kind of like blurring the lines between the low-end system, like a 2DS, and the high-end system, like the new 3DS XL. I mean, at that point, I would just jump for a 3DS.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I know the difference is $50, which $50, I mean, that might be big for some people.
Exactly.
But I don't know. I mean, it's so confusing that Nintendo decided to do that. I know it's like the middle ground in cost, but I don't think we needed a middle ground. I think we just needed either the 2DS or the new 3DS.
Yeah, exactly, because the 2DS has, the 2DS has enough different and distinct features to differentiate itself from the 3DS. But, when you have that middle ground, it's kind of like, what's the point of this, It's either 2DS or 3DS, not having, the new 3DS, or the new 2DS, because it's just,
right.
Is this just a 3DS without 3D? Why would I get this?
Yeah, exactly. Whereas, like I said, the 2DS, the original one, had very clear and very obvious differences. In fact, it was almost like it was entirely its own line of product just because it looked so different from the new 3DS.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. I feel like they pick up projects that they think are cool, but it's not entirely necessary.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I mean, wow, that's a lot of mean. But
no, I know.
It's kind of like the same thing they're doing with the retro systems too. They aren't making one system that does it all. They're making a bunch of little ones, and it's just kind of I don't really understand why yet.
And they're limited. Or I actually had another theory. I just thought of this. I've been thinking about it for a while, but this just came back up into my mind. What if they're doing this to appease the collector's market? To create an item that is scarce, that is, desired to, I guess, I don't know, why they would do it, but I guess just to kind of, let's create a collector's item, so when people think Nintendo, they'll think of another item that, is associated with the collector's crowd. I don't know, that makes sense.
No, I get what you mean, and man, I just don't really know how I feel about it in general. I mean, I get what you mean, they want to appeal to the classic system owners, people looking at the NES Classic and saying, whoa, this is an HD version of the original NES, and it has all the games built into it, this is super awesome. And then the SNES Classic comes out and people are like, whoa, this is you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, one of my comments on my NES Classic video said that, the person who made the comment said that they bought the system and now it's been discontinued and now they felt like it's even more of a classic. But it's not. I mean, the NES Classic is still a new system, and even if it plays older games, I mean, even by definition and by what, collectors considered classics, it's not a classic. It's a new system that plays old games, but it's not a collectible yet. Not unless it becomes, well, I mean, I guess at this point now that it's canceled, maybe it's a collectible, but I don't really see it as collectible material yet. Not like the original retro system is.
Yeah, definitely. It's basically just like a remaster, if you think of it in those terms.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a remastered NES.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what it is. And I mean, it's cool in concept, but even in my video, I say I don't think it's worth $60, and I know a lot of people say it's the Nintendo appeal that makes it worth $60, but the Nintendo appeal only goes so far when all it does is the same thing that any other system can really do.
Yeah, it's just kind of it doesn't the NES Classic, it just didn't make any sense because it was this product that they wanted to put out before holidays, to get people to buy it. But yet it seems like they almost hurt their own system with the amount they were shipping out. Like my local GameStop, it only got 6 of them. And so at that point it's like, did they really is this really supposed to be something that was supposed to make them a bunch of money? But they, because they didn't make very many of them.
Yeah, they didn't try to push out a whole lot of them, it seems like. I mean, the demand was high, obviously. A lot of people really wanted this, and they had the kind of budget to be able to actually make it and sell it and make some kind of profit, otherwise they wouldn't have made it in the first place.
And
but, I mean, the same...
Oh, go on. Sorry.
Okay, fine.
Sorry.
Okay, but, I had kind of the same issue with the NES Classic. I didn't go in store to try and find one because I thought, that was kind of like a lost cause, like that just wasn't going to happen. I tried doing it online, and I used a website that I showed in my NES Classic video where it actually kept track of stocks of the system.
Oh,
and
yeah?
every time I would go and try to buy one, they would sell out in less than 10 minutes. It was nuts. It's like, there's no chance of actually getting one. Oh my gosh, part of the reasoning behind it, I never even thought of someone doing it, but people were actually creating bots that would spam the website and buy every single one that the bot was allowed to purchase.
That's really kind of scummy in my opinion. That's just like a total scalper move because they're taking those away from people who actually want to buy them. But from like
absolutely.
A business sense, it doesn't make sense why they didn't ramp up production because they saw this demand. And this demand is still here, and they're like, let's discontinue it. Like, it's something that just doesn't make very much sense.
Well, if they are actually doing an SNES Classic, I hope that they at least make enough so that everyone can get one. Hopefully this will be like a lesson learned, and the SNES Classic is going to be more widely available.
Yeah, exactly. But, I mean, if they had learned their lesson, wouldn't they have continued to make NES Classics? I mean, you think they would have.
Yeah, you think they would have, but I don't know. Maybe there was some kind of restraint that prevented them from being able to mass produce them like they should have.
Yeah, especially with the timing right before the Switch.
Yeah, maybe that could have actually been part of it. Maybe they didn't want to take away from Switch sales. Of course, I mean, looking at the Switch, that's not having any problems either.
No, yeah, exactly. And they're actually doing pretty well on producing those, because those things, even though they're selling out, they're still producing tons of them. I'm not sure, they haven't really released the numbers, I don't think, but I know it's a lot. It's one of the best-selling consoles in recent years. Oh
yeah, it's actually landed Nintendo's best opening sale of a video game system like ever.
Yeah, it was like it sold out 2 million pre-orders before launch day.
Oh yeah, it's nuts. I mean, they actually, and the thing, just because, I mean, the Nintendo Switch, it looks like a really cool system. I actually had one pre-ordered, but I canceled it because I decided to invest in computer parts instead. But there's only really one great game out there for it, and people are just buying it up like candy. It's crazy.
It's a Zelda machine. Is all it
exactly.
Is. And strangely, Breath of the Wild has actually sold more copies than the Switch.
How does that work?
I don't understand. Like,
I
saw that number
if
somewhere,
they pick up a Wii U,
and it said, yeah, more copies of Zelda has been sold, and I'm just like, but there aren't that many Switches.
Well, if they pick up a Wii U version, actually, then that would make sense. If they're counting that number in.
True. Or people wanting multiple copies, or scalpers.
Or scalpers, yeah, that too. But that's crazy to think about. I mean, just because Breath of the Wild is actually not only like the only good Switch game out right now, but it's actually also the #1 rated game on the Wii U. So I mean,
really?
like,
well, the Wii U doesn't really have much going for it at this point, anyway.
That's true, yeah. I mean, there are a few games that make it worthwhile. Like, I could just own my Wii U just for Smash Bros. I mean,
true.
It gets old after a while, but where else are you going to get Smash Bros? I mean, aside from the Nintendo console.
It's one of those like things that Nintendo owns that they could be doing more with it, but it's just kind of like, well, it's the only place you can get it.
Yeah, exactly. And, being Dr. Modalot, I'm hoping maybe we'll see some more homebrew options or some more modding options for a Wii U just to make that system a little more valuable. I mean, I
Yeah,
know
definitely.
maybe you're
And
not
I'm
so
sure
in...
those options will be open as time goes on and people play around with the system more. Because it's still a relatively new system, so, people don't really know everything about it. They still have to, look into the hardware and what's really powering it, because the emulation still isn't perfect, and people are still learning new things about it.
Yeah, definitely. That's true. That's true.
Yes, very true.
All right, so...
So in terms of,
right.
what else did you want to talk about?
Oh, geez.
The next
what
topic.
else could we talk about? Well, I know you've been doing some video game reviews on your channel, I've watched, and you and I have had some off-screen talking, and I know you've been planning on doing video game reviews for NES titles for maybe, was it 2 or 3 a week you said you were planning on doing?
I was planning on a total of about 3 a week, just because me being able to produce them, they're pretty easy to produce. It's not super strenuous, there's no camera work, and NES games are relatively simple, so it's something I can actually, put out at a regular frequency. And something that I kind of stumbled upon. I kind of wanted to review an NES game, Bonk's Adventure, and it turned out to be, I could really, regularly make content about reviewing NES games.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my question for you was, when you play these games, are you actually playing all the way through them, or are you just playing them enough to put a review out?
It honestly depends on the type of game. There are some games that I've, like Balloon Fight that I reviewed. You can't really beat it. It's kind of like this arcade endless style. So what I typically do is for games like that, I will basically play enough to where I have a good grasp of the game. And then also, for Balloon Fight, and also I'm going to be reviewing Super Mario Bros. A lot of those games I've already played a lot, and I already, know what to say about the game. So I don't have to play those as much. Now, for games like Bonk's Adventure, which they actually do have an ending, I actually did complete that game. So some games that, that are linear and have kind of a story, like if I were to review Zelda, I would probably have to beat that before I want to make a review. But it honestly depends on the type of game. I tend to want to try to beat them, and then sometimes if there's time constraints, I might only play most of it. So
I can get that. I mean, some games are just too complex or too long to just go in one sitting and beat all the way through for a review. I can understand that.
Yeah, exactly. But some games you have to beat them all the way. Like, if I were to review Chrono Trigger, I would have to beat that all the way to get a good idea.
Oh yeah, of course, because I mean, games like that are more story-based. I mean, just gameplay doesn't do it justice.
Yeah, there's so much to the game that, you really need to know the game inside and out. So, I actually wanted to ask you a question.
Yeah, shoot.
So, what's your process for creating videos? Like, what, do you do the script first? Do you have an idea first and kind of just wing it? Like, what do you really do?
Well, that really depends. Kind of like what you said with your reviews, it depends on what I'm doing. Like, mostly what I do for my my video games, say I'm modding my PSP, my most recent video I did. I sit down and I actually mod the PSP first. I use a combination of NVIDIA Shadowplay to record what's on my screen, and also I have an Elgato game capture cartridge. And I start to mod my system, and as I'm going through it, I'm writing down what steps I'm doing, and I start to formulate that into a script while I'm working on it. And once I've gone the entire process of how to mod the system, I work the rest of my script around it. So, my intro, talking about what I'm doing, the materials you'll need, and then my outro. After that, I record that script, and then I pull everything over into Sony Vegas, and that's where I do the rest of my work, and that usually takes the longest out of everything, is probably the editing, just because if you have multiple clips, especially from multiple devices, such as, my desktop recording, and my Elgato, and then my voice clip, you have to get everything to match up, and then you have to edit everything to make sure that it goes in a nice flow, and of course you gotta try and do a good quality production So adding a few things here and there to make it look nice, like the little tiles that I showed in my recent video of the images of the PSP, as well as the inclusion of what items that you'll need to mod it. It all just amounts to, well, it just takes time. It just takes time sometimes.
Yes, especially for videos that require research and background knowledge like that. It's not just a video you can produce overnight.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe if you sit down and you just burst through it as much as you can. Like I've had moments where I needed to do a video and I literally just sat down and did it in one day, and I just pushed on through and just did it.
Yeah, exactly. And not at least for me, I don't really have that kind of time either. I have to, balancing YouTube, work, and school. And so it's also finding the time, I feel, is another challenging aspect of producing videos.
Oh yeah, I totally get that. I mean, part of the reason why I don't have as many videos up on my channel as I would like is because I work full time. I work 9 to 5 every single day, and I only get to start working on my videos when I get home at around 5:30 or on the weekends. So it's tough. It's a juggle.
Yeah, and YouTube itself is like a part-time job, just because if you want to create quality content, it's a part-time job, just with all the man hours that goes into creating these videos that you want to be good, presentable, and professional. Because there's a lot of other people, in terms of YouTube, that you're in a sense competing, for viewership. And a lot of them, actually, this is their job. So it can be tough trying to make sure that your content is presentable and it's something that you have to be able to put time into.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, so that brings me to another question, though, one that we hadn't talked about, and that's where do you see your future with YouTube? I mean, you told me how you got started, but what do you want to actually be doing on YouTube? Is this just going to be a part-time thing for you do for fun, or are you looking to go big with it?
I want to go as big as I can with it. If I could make a living off of it, that would be my absolute dream. But thinking realistically, it's hard to attain that. But with hard work, hopefully I could get there. But even if it doesn't explode, I would still be happy to do it as a part time, because I'm doing this because I love to do it. I'm not doing it for the money. I'm not doing it for any of that. But I really just want to see how far I can get with it. I really just want to see how far it could go, because I don't know how far it could go. I'm, just getting started. So.
Yeah, I can get that.
How about you? Where do you see your future with YouTube? I mean, you have a pretty good following, so, I can see it's probably easier, to decide what you want to do, I guess.
Well, kind of. I mean, the hard part with having a following is that I have a lot of split opinion. Like in my 13 plus video game systems video, I have people that want to do different things. I have people that want me to talk about the RetroPie. I have people that want me to talk about the PSP. I have people that want me to do all sorts of different things, and sometimes you might lose a following if you end up going the direction that the people don't want you to go in. So it's kind of like a toss-up. It's, you have to decide what will appeal most to your audience. But right now I think I'm at the point where I've decided that I want to do this full-time. I've already done the metrics. I have an idea of what I would need to do in order to actually be able to sustain a living by having a YouTube channel. And it's not that I don't enjoy actually doing the videos. I actually really love doing it, and I love seeing what my audience thinks of my videos. I love the pride in actually making a YouTube video, just because, I mean, over time my very first videos were pretty garbage, and then they're slowly getting better and better. And so I take a lot of pride in that, and I'm super happy that I have an audience that's dedicated to watching my videos. Even if it's maybe not the video they wanted to see next, they still love seeing my content, and that just means a whole lot to me.
Yeah, that's definitely, what's really cool about having an established audience, and it's something where a lot of YouTubers, try to get there, and most of them fail because they peter out, on trying to produce content. And it's not an overnight thing, so it takes time, but it's a really cool kind of, I guess you could say, job, if it applies to, if you actually are making money from it or not.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, it's not necessarily even a job as long as you enjoy it, right?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't really feel like a job. I think that's a quote. I'm not sure. It's like, if you get a job that doesn't feel like a job, then I don't really know.
Then something.
Yeah, something. Yeah, I could probably Google it, but
No, I know where you're going with it.
yeah.
But yeah, that's my goal right now. Is I want to be able to do this full time. I want to be able to sustain a living off of it, and I feel once I get to the point where I make enough that I can leave my current job, then my channel will only get that much bigger because I'll have that much more time to be working on content.
Well, you're definitely getting pretty. You're getting there. You're doing really good with your channel. So.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely. I think that might be good. I think that's good for a good first episode for a podcast. We've been doing this for about 36 minutes. Didn't want to make it super long, but we covered a lot of the bases that we wanted to cover.
We did, yeah, but I had actually one last question for you.
Oh yeah, go away.
My last question for you was, you just so that your audience and my audience get an idea of what we're going to be working on. Do you have any ideas for upcoming videos that you're going to be doing?
Actually, I do. So right now, my current studio is broken down. I don't have a place where I record on camera videos. I want to get a high quality webcam to do that. But I'm really thinking about doing the best 5 Game Boy games to start a collection with. That's kind of a series I've kind of started as, the top 5 games for a certain console if you want to start collecting for it. So I want to definitely make another video, especially for the Game Boy and the Dreamcast. And then I also want to, explore other games that I feel might be hidden gems, because I have another series that deals with hidden gems and underrated games and exploring the backstory and history of those. So, kind of where I'm at with reviews, the top 5 games to start collection with, and underrated gems videos. I feel like I have I think I have a full plate with what I want to do. And so that's kind of what I want to focus on right now. But right now I'm really focused on, at least producing 3 reviews a week, so.
Oh yeah, and that's definitely good to have an idea of what you're going to be doing, instead of having to, on the spot, at the end of every single video, be like, okay, what's next? What am I going to do? What am I going to work on?
Yeah, exactly. It's always good to want to have a plan. And I know for the next podcast, I'm going to have a better plan as well.
Oh, well, hey, I think this came out pretty good myself.
Yeah, same, honestly. Yeah, I think it came out really well.
Awesome. All right. Well, I guess for me, what's coming up next is, now that I've done the PSP video, I plan on doing the follow-up to that, which is actually installing custom firmware onto a PSP. From there, I have a couple directions I can go. I have, actually, what I think is one of the most rarest PSP accessories, just because I think there's only one video on YouTube about it, and it's not even in English, and I've never actually seen anyone else talk about it, and I'm not going to spoil it just yet, just because it's a pretty cool little device I found for the PSP. And then, other than that, I have a little system that I want to talk about, kind of in the same wake of my NES Classic and SNES Classic. Have you heard of the Retrobit generations?
Oh no, I actually haven't. What's that?
I
Not gonna
bought
spoil
it,
it?
and it's. No, I'll spoil a little bit. I mean,
Okay.
anyone watching the video probably, well, not anyone, but a lot of people probably know what it is. It's kind of like an NES Classic or an SNES Classic, where it's a little micro console that has built-in games. It has 90 games built in from multiple genres, or from multiple consoles, and they're official ones, not like full Nintendo, but like Capcom and some of the other major developers during those times.
Oh, that's really cool.
It is. It's sort of. We'll talk about the system once it gets there. It's special. It's special.
That definitely sounds like it's going to make an awesome video.
I hope so.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening and tuning into this podcast. I'm going to continue to try to make this a regular thing, and I will definitely for sure have Brian back on the podcast many more times in the future. I really enjoyed this. So any last words for the podcast and our viewers?
Not a whole lot. I mean, I really enjoyed it as well. This is the first podcast that I've ever done. I think it's kind of nice to be able to actually chat with someone about these topics who understands, because I can. My mom watches my videos sometimes, and she
Same.
doesn't really like listening to my videos anymore. So it's
Yeah.
nice to have someone to talk to about it.
Exactly. That's always the best part, because like when you're able to converse with somebody about topics that you have similar interests in, it makes everything. I don't know. It just makes everything better, and it's I don't know. It's just really cool.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
All right. So thank you guys for watching. Be sure to subscribe to both me and Brian, both of our channels. I will have links in the description. I will also have end cards linking to both of our channels. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys in the next episode, probably.
And for my viewers, thank you for stopping by the office.